Hello and welcome to my course on AI automation powered by n8n. Today we are going to continue the Capstone project that we were building in the last lesson of this course, and I am going to share the second part of the series. There is a third part which is remaining that will be continued in the next lesson, but stay tuned for the part 3 as well, because in that lesson I am going to tell you how to create PDFs from docx version and all that for free. Now let's get started with the part 2 of this Capstone project. So let's go ahead and delete this, save it, and we'll start building further from here on. Now, in order to enrich the information of the company as well as the person who has entered this lead, basically we are using the Hunter IO again, because it also provides you an API that allows you to get a lot of information or enriched information about a company or a person by scraping the internet and find out as much as possible about that particular lead. And if I come over here in the API section, you can see that we just use the email verification one, but there is this company enrichment API, there is this person enrichment API, and then there is this combined enrichment API that combines the enrichment of company as well as a person. This is the API that we are going to use, and you can see that it's a very simple API. Method is get, URL is this till the find, and then you need to specify email and the API key as a parameter. Unfortunately, if I open the Hunter node, there is no such operation that is available, only domain search, email finder and email verify that is there. So that means this operation is not yet available in the Hunter node API of n8n. So that's why we have to use the HTTP node. And remember where the HTTP node comes in. This is exactly the situation where the out-of-the-box functionality is not available in n8n to integrate with an external service or an API. That's where you can use HTTP node. So I'm going to click on the true branch, because false we have already logged the discarded one. So true branch, the workflow continues. Here we'll use HTTP node, and I'm going to go back to the API. I'm going to copy the URL from here, and then let's come back to our workflow. Let's paste the URL, and I'm going to cut the parameters from it. So the URL is mentioned, authentication will be none because we'll be sending the API key in the query parameters. We are going to use that. So here it was email, and there is another parameter that was API key. We have to get the value from the previous node. What we can do is on lead received, I can open up that and I can drag this value over here. So this is the value we want, the email value. So we are going to use that. And in this particular example, we had mentioned dj@gmail.com, and that's why the flow is not coming over here. And that's why you are seeing the blank input, because the flow is going in the false branch of it. That means we have to put some sort of valid data so that the third party validation or email verification passes and the workflow continues. So let's open this node. You can execute the step and submit the form again, but I'll save that time because this video is going to be anyways longer. So that's why I'm going to click on edit, and here only I'll change the details. So I'll just mention my name in the email, because we have to find the enriched information and also allow it to pass. So that means we have to mention some sort of valid person's email ID that can be searched with some sort of company information. And for that, I'm going to use my own personal travel blog email ID that existed for more than like 10-12 years, devilonwheels.com. So I'll just mention that company, let's say Devil on Wheels. We can remove the website, we can remove the job title. Rest of these fields we can leave it as is. Let's click on save. So this is some sort of valid email data now available to us. So let's go ahead and rerun it. So let's run this one. So it passes the verification. Let's open this one and execute it again. So now you can see that status is valid, result is deliverable, and you can see score is 100 now. So I'm really happy to see that that old email is still having a score of 100. Now if I click on this, so now it passed the third party validation as well. Now let's open this newly created API for enrichment details. Let me rename this as well, enrich lead information, because that's the step that we are doing. Let's click on rename and let's execute now. You can see that all this information could be found by it, and here you can see company. I did not specify much details of the company, but it is telling me Devil on Wheels, legal name is this, domain name is devilonwheels.com. We did not mention the domain name, you remember. It found some phone numbers as well. It's some sort of random phone numbers. It found tags as well for this particular organization. It found description of the company, and who is the founder, it did not, location where it is located, some street name is also coming. So some of the information that you see is not that valid, not that great, because I have used my own travel blog. But if you are going to enter some sort of corporate user, I cannot enter it because of the privacy reason. Otherwise I could have used somebody else's professional ID as well and put it there and try it out. But you can do that on your own email ID and see what all information it fetches. It fetches a lot of information, especially if you are available on LinkedIn with that particular email ID. So now if we go back to the workflow, the business analyst job was to Google the company, search for LinkedIn database, collect. This step we have automated. Next one was to merge all this information into a single profile. And for that, we are going to go back and use the merge node over here. Let's go ahead and click on this and let's merge the data. So we are going to merge the data of enriched lead information, and we'll go back to the canvas, and we also want the data that is coming as an input too. So we want to merge the data that was received from this because it had an email confidence score, and that we might want to use later on. So that's why I have merged the data over here. But what you can also do is you can also merge this information with this one first, and then the merged information can be merged over here. So you can insert a merge node in between these two threads as well, but I'll leave that as a homework for you. For now, we'll just continue. So this is our merged profile that has been created. Let's open this and configure it. We want to combine the data, and the matching fields are not exactly same. So here we have person data.person.email. So we want to match this. So this is our input 1, and the input 2 was over here, third party email validation. So over here it was email, and we'll leave output keep matches. Output data, both inputs merged together. Let's execute this and let's go down. So you can see that at the bottom, third party email validation nodes output has been merged. Now we'll go back and see what's next in the workflow. So this has been merged. Now the big part comes in, which is like 4 steps. The sales ops guys determines the potential value of the lead and then classify them as high value, medium value, low value. They searches the CRM or internal spreadsheets to check if the lead is already existing or not, evaluates the VIP status, and then tags the leads appropriately like existing general, existing VIP, and new customer. Let's automate these 4 steps now. So although we have these steps in order, what I would like to do first is automate this step, because before assigning the value to the lead, I want to search whether the customer was part of the CRM or not. So for that, let's go ahead, and in this case, we are using a CRM of Airtable. So if I open it, this is the record that I've already inserted. There is this total revenue coming in, which is going to be used for evaluating the VIP status. You might have some different criteria that you can use based on your logic. For our example, I'm going to just use this total revenue field over here. So for that, we are going to add Airtable node. Let's search that. And we want get records, search records probably. Let's search the records, because for getting the record, you need the record ID. And for searching the records, you can search it using the search criteria. So in the credentials, I have already created Airtable credentials. If you have not watched my video on how to create step-by-step Airtable credentials, you can go ahead and do that, and then come back after creating the credentials over here. In the resource, we'll leave record. In the operation, it is search. In the base, we are going to select the customer development CRM. And in the table, we are going to select the customers. Yeah, there is a customer one. In the filter by formula, we are going to mention a simple use case. Email equals to the email that we are getting from the merge node. If I execute this step, so you can see that the record has been found. In fact, there are 2 records found. That should not be the case. So let me go back to the CRM and delete one of them. Where is it? Now let's come back over here and execute this step again. So ideally you should have only 1 record of the customer. So let's go back to the canvas and execute the other steps as well, because now we have found the customer. We can evaluate the VIP status and tag the customer as existing general, existing VIP, or a new customer. But before calculating that, let's merge the information that we have received from the Airtable with the previous information that we were getting. But in this scenario, we have to use something special in the merge node. So let's add a merge node again. And we have to use combine over here. Fields to match will remain same, email. And what we have to merge it, let's go back. Let me put it over here. And we are going to merge the same data. So the unified profile that we have created, let me open this and let's say unified profile. That's better. So we have to merge the unified profile with the data if found in Airtable. So that means there is an if over here. That means we have to enrich the input 2 data with the Airtable data if found. If the customer does not exist, then it continues to passes as same unified enriched profile. So in this case, I'll just open this up. I'll rename it to unified enriched profile with CRM data. Let's rename this. And like I said, fields to match might have different names. So let's drag this over here. That's the Airtable one. And then we want it from merge node as well. So over here, we can say person ID. Last time we used the email. Let's use that only for consistency. So we had an email over here. So let's use this. So good that we use this option because this was email with capital E. This was with small e. And now in the output keep matches, what we had to do was we have to enrich the data of input 2, because in the cases where it's a new lead, the data will not be available in our CRM. So we have to always enrich the data that is already coming in unified enriched profile node. So how do you do that? You do that with the help of output type. Right now it is keep matches, but by selecting this enrich input 2 option, which means that all of input 2 data will be there with the data from input 1 if it exists. So we're going to use that, and I'm going to execute this step. And now you can see at the bottom, we have more information. Total revenue is also there, gender, age, rating. So data that was available in our CRM is also merged into this profile now. And now we'll go ahead and calculate the VIP status of it. For that, we have to add a if node or probably a switch node, I'll say. Let's use switch node. So here, first of all, we can check whether the customer existed or not, or it's a new customer or not. In order to do that, I'll just collapse this. I'll collapse this metadata as well. And we can use our CRM data that we had found. If the record was present, so that means if I drag this over here, if $JSON.id exists, that means it's an existing customer. Otherwise, it's a new customer. So for that, I'm going to use string does not exist and rename the output as new customer. Now we have to evaluate whether the customer is general or a VIP. For that, I'm going to add another rule, and we are going to drag this total revenue column over here, and it's a number. It's a number, and we can use less than over here, and let's say 100,000, and let's rename this general. And similarly, third one, we can use the same thing, but this time number should be greater than or equal to 100,000. So if I execute it, this record should return as it returned in output 2. Oops, I did not rename the output. So let's do that. So this is like a VIP customer. So this is the definition of the VIP. So now we have all 3 branches coming out of it, and we go back to our workflow. So we have automated these 3 steps. Now it's time to automate this particular step, which is a little more complex in nature, because now here you have to identify whether the potential lead is high value, low value, or medium value, and the criteria is a little more complex over here. So let's go back to our canvas. Before we jump into determining what is the value of the lead, let's first tag our data or the profile that is coming, which is like more of the unified enriched profile with CRM data, with these status as well, whether it's a new customer, existing customer, or a VIP customer. And this complete profile is going to be used later on to create a PDF as well. So how do you do that? Set node comes to our rescue. So I'm going to click on this. Let's use set node. So it's also called edit field set node. So we are going to say add field, and name we are going to say customer underscore type underscore tag, and it's a string over here. Let me go back and see which one I said. Okay, it's a new customer. So I'm going to just tag over here the value as new customer, and let's rename this to. And because we have to create the unified profile, not filter any other fields, so we'll use this option, include other input fields, and we'll select all over here. Now if I execute this, nothing will come out of it because there is no data in this particular branch. But similarly, I have to tag other ones as well. So I'll just copy paste 3 nodes over here. I'll connect this one over here. I'll connect this one over here. Let's expand them a bit so that it becomes readable. So let's open the general one first. Let's rename it to general. Over here, we can say general customer. Rest of the settings will be same. Let's go back. Now let's tag the VIP. Rename. So this will be new instead of that VIP customer. Let's go back, save our progress. Now let's execute all of them. So this one, and this one. So let's execute this one. So you can see that data was only available in this one. So you can see at the bottom we have the customer type as VIP customer. If the total revenue was less than 100,000, then the data would be available in this branch. If I go back to the workflow, so you can see that there are various parameters that we can use in order to determine the value of the lead. For our workflow development, I'm not going to use all 5 of them. I'm going to use 3 of them, and we are going to use a scoring method. So if all 3 criterias meet, you get a score of 3, and if you get a score of 3, that means the customer is high value. If you get a score of 1 or 2, that means it's a medium value. It needs to be verified by the sales manager as per the business process over here, and then further process. If you get a score of 0, that means it's a low value lead. It needs to be further nurtured in order to process it into our system. So that's the criteria I'll use. You can define your own algorithm, own criteria in order to evaluate the lead profile. You can use AI as well, but we are going to hold on to that till the section 6, because that's where we'll introduce how you can take smarter decisions with the help of LLMs and generative AI, so that this kind of complex algorithm you do not need to build it. So now let's go back, and what we have to do is, because we have to do scoring, so again I have to use an edit field set node. So I'm just going to copy this and paste it over here, and we are going to merge all 3 of them over here. So no matter which branch the data is flowing from, they all will lead into this one where we are going to initialize a score. Let's rename it to initialize lead score. Put it here. We'll make it as a number and we'll say 0. So we'll start from 0. That means 0 is the lowest profile or lowest value lead. There's a typo over here. Now let's execute this step. So there is a lead score of 0 over here. Now let's come back. Now we are going to pass this item through various conditions that we want to evaluate in order to determine the value, and keep on incrementing the value of this lead score. And then finally at the end of all the conditions, we are going to evaluate what was the total score it gained. Let me quickly build that, and then I'll explain what that part of the workflow is doing. Alright, so I'm done making the changes, and you can see that I have added these 6 nodes over here. In order to explain this concept, I wanted to use no code. Otherwise, I could have used a piece of code and merged all these 6 nodes together into one single code node in order to do the job. However, I wanted to show you that most of the things, 99% of the things are possible with no code in n8n. That's the power of n8n, that you don't need to write code. Of course, you need to duplicate the same step again and again in order to do that. We already got a taste of duplication where we use the switch node and then we tagged using the set node. We could have merged everything together in the code node. I'll show you an example in a moment. But over here as well, I have used 3 if nodes. So what we are doing is we initialize the lead score as 0 over here. So this is like the 0 lead score. Then we started evaluating various conditions. The first condition is check email confidence. So if the email confidence score is greater than 60 from our Hunter.io API, so in this scenario, we are going to increment the lead score by 1 because we have a confidence in email score deliverability. So the flow will go over here and it will increment the value of lead score by 1. Then it comes to another condition, which is checking the service region. However, the false of it goes over here. So that means if the confidence score was there, this node will get 1 as lead score. If the confidence score was less than or equal to 60, that means it is still going to come in as 0 lead score. So that means the lead score has not increased when it reaches the check service region node. So if I open this, here we are checking whether the service region that has been returned from the company.geo.country code is in the service region where we cater. If it belongs to one of these countries, so I have used this and I have used array over here. So if you go down to the array, you can see the contains over here. So that ways you can match whether something contains in a particular list of strings or not. So that's where we have used the service region. If the lead belongs to our service region, we are going to increment again the value by 1. So you can see that I have incremented the value. If not, then based on 1 or 0 that was received, it is going to pass over here 2 or 0 or 1. Then we are finally checking the industry. If the industry group belongs to software or the json.data.company.tags contains software, so that means the industry belongs to us, the software industry where we work in. Maybe I'll change it to travel because everything is related to travel in our example, just to simulate various scenarios. But for now, you got the idea that I have 3 conditions, and based on the truthness of these conditions, I'm incrementing the value of the lead score. And at the end, we are going to check what was the lead score and assign high value, low value, and medium value. So there are 2 ways to do that. First, we have already seen that I can basically add a switch node over here. Then these 3 set nodes can come in order to define the value of that particular node. However, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a simple piece of code over here to show you that how we can optimize the number of nodes that are there if you know a little bit of coding, or you can also take help from ChatGPT in order to write this simple kind of code. So let's add a code node over here. Let me go back. Let's expand it a bit and let's merge this over here. So that means now the code node will have either 1 plus 1 plus 1, that is 3 as lead score, or it may have 0, or it may have 2, or it may have 1. And that's what we are going to check inside this. So over here, if I click on execute step, what this basic step is doing is it is executing on all data items at once first of all. So all the items inputted into this code node are going to be considered. In our case, it will always be a single item. So over here, you can see that for each item, it is adding a new field called my new field equals to 1. So at the bottom, you would see my new field equals to 1. This is the field we are going to replace as lead underscore value. And the value of this lead value is going to come based on the logic. So for that, let's go back a bit and see how the data processed through. Up until over here, the lead score was 0, but then we check the email confidence score. It returned the true. So that means the flow went to the incrementing of the lead score. So it incremented the lead score, and then it checked the service region. So the service region that we had over here is US. You can see that the company.geo.country code is coming as US, which belongs to our service region. So that means it also went into incrementing the lead score. Then it came in over here. Then it checked for industry. So in the industry, if we look at the data like data.company.category industry group. So if we go over there, let's close this person tab. So in the company tab, if we look at company.category, so over here, the category is there, industry group is coming as null. And if we look at the tags, there are no tags that refers to software. So all these tags has a value in them, which is more like an array. That's why I've used array over here. So you can see that software is not coming over here. So that means this condition is false. So that means the lead score is not going to increase over here. So that means in the code node, we are going to get an input of lead score as 2. So you can see that the value of 2 is coming, and here we'll start mentioning some of the conditions in order to define our lead value. So I've already written that piece of code. Let me just replace this over here. Let me just indent it a bit. So what this piece of code is doing is item.json.lead type. By default, we are saying it's a medium value. Then we are checking if the value of lead score is equals to 3, then the lead type becomes high value. If the lead score is less than 1, lead type becomes low value. And if I execute this step now, it should have a medium value because the lead score was 2. So you can see that lead type has been defined as medium value. Now let's go back to our canvas. So till over here, now we have the lead value as well. So that means we have automated this step as well, and we have identified what is our ideal customer, what needs a manager review, what is not qualified or needs further nurturing of the lead. Now, if we come down, the last step was sales ops evaluates. So it's more like a 4.5. I think I misspelled it over here, or maybe make it 5. Then comes 6.1. So over here, the sales ops evaluates and then starts notifying the people. So high value notifies content coordinator plus sales account executive for direct outreach. Medium value, it alerts the content coordinator again and sales manager for approval. Low value adds to nurture sheet in the Google Sheets. So far we have automated everything above. Let's go ahead and automate this step as well now. Let's save our progress. And in order to automate that, we will need a switch node. Let's rename it to route based on lead value. Let's go back, and in the code node as well, we can say that assign lead value. So we'll use lead type. Let's come back. Let's open this. And over here, we need to use the lead type. So let's drag this. So it's a medium value. We'll say medium value as is. We'll use this and we'll ignore the case as well. Let's rename the output to medium value. Let's add another routing rule. In fact, let's keep it in order. High value, this is. Then let's add a third branch as well. Let's copy this now. And let's execute this step. So based on this logic, the data will be coming in the medium value branch. Let's go back over here. So now based on these lead values, we can notify the respective people to take final actions. Let's go ahead and build that as well.